Hello, my name is Hannah, a 36-year-old high school teacher who recently discovered that she might inherit over $4 million. Her family is already making big plans. Her husband, Walter, an office worker 3 years her senior, joyfully declared he had quit his job to start a business with the anticipated funds. At the same time, Hannah's mother-in-law is dreamily overseeing the construction of a duplex where they could all live together, featuring her ideal kitchen. Caught in the whirlwind of their plans, Hannah tries to intervene. "Wait, I haven't received any inheritance yet. Why are you quitting jobs and building homes?" But the enthusiasm is hard to curb. Her father-in-law even suggests a celebratory trip to Florida. In the chaos, despite the confusion and her rising anger, Hannah feels powerless. The thought of her family spending her potential inheritance freely troubles her deeply. This all started a few months back. Hannah's life had been a balance of teaching and raising her daughter, Samantha, who was born shortly after she married Walter. Today she is visiting her hospitalized mother with Samantha. "Oh, Grandma, it's been a while," Samantha exclaims, greeting her grandmother who caresses her hair with a frail hand. A mysterious middle-aged man in glasses leaves the room as Hannah enters. Her mother, with eyes sparkling a soft blue, assures Hannah that all is well. Hannah reminisces about her upbringing with her immigrant parents who had moved from overseas to run a business. Raised with love and financial stability, she credits her success and values to her parents who instilled in her the importance of education and hard work from a young age. A few years after my father's passing, my mother's health declined, and she was admitted to the hospital. With her health in focus, she handed over the family business to a relative, choosing to spend her days in quiet recovery. "I'm fine, Mom. Do you need anything?" I asked during one of our visits. Her reply warmed my heart. "Just having you and Samantha come to see me is more than enough." Samantha, my 9-year-old daughter, chatted eagerly with her about school and the latest book she'd read. Watching her, I felt a surge of pride. Though I may be biased, Samantha is a bright and honest child who's navigating her formative years beautifully. When we returned home, Walter greeted us with curiosity. "How's my mother-in-law doing?" After updating him, he shared tidbits from a seminar he attended, focusing on starting a side business. Walter's been keen on increasing our income, perhaps driven by a dissatisfaction with his current job, which isn't top tier but stable enough. Combined with my teaching salary, sometimes his eagerness for more financial gain, a trait he might have inherited from his parents, feels overwhelming. His parents have always had a knack for penny pinching, often awkwardly asking for money during visits, which has strained our relationship. They rarely spoil Samantha, not even with Christmas gifts. But fortunately, they live far enough away that our interactions are minimal. Despite these frictions, our home life is steady. Walter is adept with household chores, and I cherish my days with him, Samantha, and the peaceful life we've built. But then a sudden call from the hospital turned everything upside down. My mother's condition had drastically worsened, thrusting our family into a rush to be by her side. My mother's breaths were shallow, her voice barely above a whisper as she spoke her last words to me. "Hannah, I always wanted you to be happy. Cherish Samantha more than anything. I love you." Those words, filled with love and care, were the last I heard from her. My mother had dedicated her life to raising me alongside my father and had a special bond with my daughter Samantha. At her funeral, her expression was serene, and all I could do was weep alongside Samantha, who was equally devastated. Sometime after her passing, a mysterious envelope arrived at our house, bearing the seal of a law firm. Puzzled, I opened it to find a document inside. It stated that I was the sole beneficiary of my mother's will, a topic we had never discussed. With the document in hand, I decided to visit the law firm on my own. "Hello, I'm the attorney Roy," said the man who greeted me, a middle-aged gentleman with glasses I recognized from the hospital. "Heidel, you were in my mother's hospital room," I said, remembering his face. "Yes, we met there," he replied. "From that time, I was entrusted by your mother." His kind voice nearly brought me to tears again. Then he revealed something astonishing. "Your mother left you an inheritance of $6 million. When your father passed, you waived your right to the inheritance, so your mother could receive it all after taxes. This is the amount you inherit," he said. I was stunned. My parents had been wealthy, but I had never imagined the magnitude of their fortune. After marrying, I never asked them for money and avoided discussing inheritances, considering it bad luck. But here I was, feeling overwhelmed by this final gesture of love from my mother. "Your mother cared about you deeply," Roy continued, his tone reassuring. "She instructed me to assist you if necessary. Please feel free to discuss anything with me." Grateful, I thanked him multiple times and left the office feeling a mix of sorrow and gratitude. As time passed, the weight of this inheritance and my mother's enduring love stayed with me. Around the time of her 50-day memorial service, Hannah found herself increasingly troubled by her family's focus on the inheritance. Her husband, Walter, aware of her family's wealth from the days when her father ran his successful business, began to frequently inquire about the inheritance. Each time he brought it up, Hannah, still deep in mourning, asked him to drop the subject. He would comply, only to later revisit the topic, unable to hide his curiosity about the financial details. The situation worsened during the memorial service itself. Her father-in-law, perhaps trying to appear helpful, awkwardly broached the topic. "Hannah, if you're worried about managing the inheritance, we're here to help. We've dealt with family inheritance issues before. It can get tricky," he offered. His words, meant to reassure, felt hollow to Hannah, given his and her mother-in-law's usual disinterest in offering genuine help. 4 months after her mother's passing, Walter's patience seemed to wane. He confronted Hannah again, this time more directly. "Have you received your mother's inheritance yet?" Feeling a rush of discomfort, Hannah chose to mislead him. "The procedures are complicated, so not yet," she said. In truth, she had already secured the inheritance safely in a deposit box on the advice of Roy, the attorney, but felt it prudent to keep this information private. Walter seemed unusually cheerful as he retreated to the bedroom, leaving Hannah with a sense of foreboding. The next day, as she and her daughter Samantha were cleaning up after dinner, the doorbell rang. Samantha rushed to answer it, and when Hannah looked from the kitchen, she saw her in-laws standing at the door with Walter, who had just returned from work. Surprised and a bit apprehensive, Hannah wondered what brought them there. Unexpectedly, the atmosphere at home became tense when Samantha, sensing the growing unease, anxiously glanced at everyone before retreating to her room. At Hannah's urging, she asked, "What's happening here?" hoping to keep the situation calm. "We have something to celebrate today," exclaimed her father-in-law, clearly in high spirits as he pulled a beer from the fridge. Her mother-in-law, carrying the same buoyant mood, chimed in with a dreamy tone. "You've inherited over $4 million, right? We've already started on a duplex for us all to live together. It even has the modern kitchen of my dreams." Hannah, stunned, could barely process their words. "What are you talking about? I told you I haven't received any inheritance yet." Walter, her husband, with a look of satisfaction, revealed his plans. "I quit my job and decided to start a business using that inheritance," he said, assuming the money was already theirs to use. Hannah felt the room spin as her family's assumptions piled up. You've quit your job, and you're building a house. We haven't received any inheritance yet. Why are you acting like it's a done deal, ignoring her protest? Walter and her mother-in-law only grew more enthusiastic discussing plans for a trip to Florida before the duplex was completed. Then Walter, with a dismissive laugh, accused Hannah of being stingy. We've checked into it. You can't refuse an inheritance if you don't claim it within 4 months. So whether you processed it or not, the inheritance is yours. His logic was flawed, but he continued, fueled by misplaced certainty. Considering the scale of my father's company, it has to be more than $4 million. We'll live comfortably. Be sure to have the money ready for the duplex in my startup capital. Hannah's head spun as she faced the misguided enthusiasm and pressure from her husband and in-laws. Feeling trapped in a whirlwind of misunderstanding and expectation, Hannah was at her wit's end, overwhelmed by the audacity of her husband and in-laws who eagerly plotted to use the inheritance from her mother for their lavish desires. Though anger boiled within her, she couldn't bring herself to erupt, not with Samantha possibly overhearing from the next room. Needing to escape, she muttered, "I'm going outside for a bit." But her words were lost in their enthusiastic chatter about spending the inheritance. She left the house, wallowing in the cool embrace of the night, forgotten. Into the cool embrace of the night, she found solace at a hilltop park, a place steeped in memories of time spent with her mother. There, amidst the solitude, she allowed herself to cry, stifling her sobs. The injustice of the situation gnawed at her, her family's exploitation of her emotions, and their disregard for her feelings. Yet the thought of divorce tangled in her mind. How could she append Samantha's life? Her mother's parting words, "Take care of Samantha above all else," echoed in her heart, renewing her tears. A gentle voice unexpectedly addressed her. Startled, she looked up to find a stranger offering a sympathetic ear. Their conversation over the next few moments provided a sliver of comfort. 5 days later, Hannah summoned her resolve, along with her husband and in-laws, to a private room in a local restaurant. "So you finally came back home. Did you withdraw the money?" they asked, almost immediately ignoring the palpable tension. Walter added, "You shouldn't leave home without telling your husband." Ignoring their probing, Hannah reached into her bag and placed a document on the table. It was a completed divorce notice. "Walter, I want a divorce," she declared firmly. The room went silent for a moment before her husband stammered, "What are you saying?" Panic flashed across his face, and the in-laws exchanged bewildered glances. "I can't do this anymore," Hannah continued, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Walter's face flushed with anger as he retorted, "You're leaving us after getting the inheritance. You've changed because of the money, you miser." Hannah snapped back, her patience finally breaking. "Ever since I received my mother's estate, you've been out of control, quitting your job, deciding we'd live with your parents, planning to build a duplex with our savings, all without even asking me. I've had enough." The confrontation marked a turning point as Hannah stood firm against the greed and manipulation that had come to define her relationship with Walter and his parents. As they discussed a potential trip to Florida, the confrontation escalated. Who is the one who changed when the money came in? "I can't possibly stay with such people," Hannah stated firmly, her resolve unwavering. "Wait, you can't just divorce me like that," Walter protested, desperation creeping into his voice. His parents chimed in. "That's right. Our savings after marriage are shared property. Half of the inheritance belongs to Walter no matter what." "That's correct. If it comes to that, we will take $4 million with us," they declared, their faces twisted with greed as they moved closer to Hannah. Just as she was about to retort, the door to the private room slid open. Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma should know better. The inheritance Mom received doesn't become shared property, right, Mr. Roy? Samantha's voice cut through the tension as she entered the room, followed by Attorney Roy. "And who are you?" Walter demanded, his tone mixed with confusion and irritation. "I'm Attorney Roy. Hannah's mother entrusted me with this matter, and I've been advising Hannah," Roy explained as he and Samantha entered the room. The room fell silent for a moment as Walter looked visibly flustered. "That's all well and good, but wait," Walter stammered, trying to regain his composure. "The inheritance doesn't become shared property." "That's correct," Roy confirmed. Inherited property from a deceased parent does not become shared property, nor is it subject to division in a divorce. "You've got to be kidding me. Is this a mistake?" Walter blurted out, his voice tinged with disbelief. Amidst the flustered responses from Walter and his parents, Hannah was taken aback by their blatant assumption that her inheritance was up for grabs. "In that case, it's even more reason not to divorce." "I'll cling to you no matter what," Walter exclaimed, his eyes bloodshot with desperation. "Stop it already," Samantha interjected firmly, her calm yet stern voice silencing the room. "Since Mom suggested divorce, has Dad ever thought about Mom once? Grandpa and Grandma only ever talk about money. They never once mentioned me." "I can't consider such people as family." Hannah looked at her daughter, her heart swelling with pride, yet aching from the bitter truths being unveiled. The room echoed with Samantha's words, underscoring the deep rift that had formed, driven by greed and misunderstanding. "On the day I found myself overwhelmed by grief and frustration over my inheritance, it was Samantha who stood by my side. She came running after me, her words fueling my resolve. Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma are out of line trying to take Grandma's legacy for themselves. Mom, I'm on your side. Let's fight this together." Heartened by her support, I contacted Roy, the attorney, to set up this crucial meeting. In the meeting, my husband and his parents tried to sway Samantha. "Samantha, it's not like that. Dad wants you to be happy," Walter pleaded. His parents added, "You'd be happier living with us, wouldn't you?" "A child shouldn't interfere." Samantha, visibly frustrated by their words, stood her ground. "I'm going with Mom. I can't bear to be with you anymore," she declared, turning away to avoid their pleading looks. Firmly, I supported her decision. "We've made up our minds. Samantha and I will be leaving." Walter, now angry, retaliated, "Hey, I've never cheated, and you can't just force a divorce. I'll hire a lawyer. We'll get that money one way or another." It was then that Roy spoke up, his voice calm yet assertive. "The issue here is not just about the money. There are serious reasons to consider not continuing this marriage, Walter. You quit your job and used household savings without permission. You decided we all should live together, and now Samantha says she can't bear it. These are all significant points we can argue." Roy continued, "Moreover, your daughter recorded everything you and your parents said about trying to claim Hannah's inheritance. That recording can also serve as evidence." Upon hearing this, Walter slumped defeated, while my in-laws turned pale, realizing the gravity of the situation. The meeting, though tense, had crystallized our path forward, underpinned by the unwavering support between Samantha and me, and the competent guidance of Roy. A year after that tumultuous meeting in the restaurant, thanks to diligent legal efforts, my divorce from Walter was finalized. Samantha and I moved into the house where my mother had lived, hoping for a fresh start. However, our peace was occasionally disturbed by letters from Walter proclaiming his love and asking us to come back. More unsettling was seeing him loiter near Samantha's school, prompting us to seek legal help again. This time, we obtained a restraining order to ensure our safety. Life quieted down after that. Rumor had it that Walter and his parents did go through with building a duplex, but life was not kind to them. My retired in-laws had to return to work in a factory, and Walter struggled to find employment, eventually settling for manual labor. From what I heard from neighbors, the duplex was a constant battleground of arguments, earning them an unfavorable reputation in the neighborhood. Meanwhile, Samantha and I enjoyed our peaceful existence, supporting each other through everything. One day, Samantha expressed a desire to study abroad in the country where her grandmother had grown up. Seeing this as an opportunity to cut ties completely with my past life and start anew, we decided to move overseas. We used a portion of my mother's inheritance for this new beginning, a decision I knew my mother would have supported. Now Samantha thrives in her new school environment, and I have resumed my teaching career abroad. Every day feels like a step forward in our journey towards lasting peace. We hope to continue living these serene days, far removed from the chaos of the past.